Okay, Alex Ansary here. We are going to continue. We were cut off earlier, running off solar. Sometimes I got to run out and adjust some wiring here off the grid. So I'm actually going to continue reading, right, a portion out of this book by Robert Bruce. Okay, grabbing some water here. Okay. All right, let's get to it. Strength of mind, visualize shields, white light barriers, visualize barriers, sending spirits to the light, the compassion method, and revoking neg permission are all popular ways of dealing with bad spirits. Let me put a little bit of attitude into this. But how do these methods stand up in practice? This chapter discusses the ins and outs of some popular methods of psychic self defense and suggests that it is sometimes better to not react to minor neg disturbances. Okay, and by the way, I'm reading from page 167, so we're going with some random information. Strength of mind will not, in itself, protect you from psychic attack and neg related problems. It's an invaluable asset, but it will not alone generate immunity. However, combined with an understanding of the psychic attack and neg problems, its defensive worth improves, no matter how strong a person may be inside or physically. If one does not recognize a problem, one cannot deal with it. This is why negs take great pains to hide their presence. People who do not believe and hence do not recognize neg activities are easy to interfere with, whereas aware people are a much more difficult proposition for negs. So that's just one page, and there's some other information that got into meditation. I'll go back to that in a minute. So I'm just reading, just select portion. You can find yourself for probably $5 somewhere. Or there's, of course, thick books or thriftbooks.com as my eye gets unusually itchy. Okay. Visualized shields. By far the most popular neg countermeasures employed today is the visualized shield. One visualizes a thick shield of light, color, or glass surrounding oneself or someone else as a protective measure. It sounds good in theory, but unless it is supported by effective technique and regular effort, shields will be ineffective. So you have to maintain whatever it is that you're building up. And it has to be backed up with strong belief. The biggest difficulty with shields is maintaining them over time. It takes time and effort to create and energize a shield. Most people will not take the trouble to create a shield until they need one, but by putting this off until one comes under neg attack is not a good idea. Visualized or imagined actions affect the astral dimension where the human mind has strong creative abilities. If enough time and effort are put into the creation and maintenance of a shield, it will be durable. So I'm going to skip ear tinnitus, for left ear tinnitus versus right ear tinnitus. Are you asking me if I notice a difference? I do notice what you're discussing, and the question is maybe how we define, how we explain why we may notice it on the left more than the right, for example. So there are people that talk about the ringing in the ears, and it's believed to be connected possibly with targeting. And this can happen even if you're not on the internet. One thing that I noticed is, of course, a little bit of course, some people have it more extreme than others, and that might relate to how much of a shield they're able to put up, how much of a shield they're able to. And I don't have the fan going, folks. I'm going to be sweating as we go through this hot July. So we have a question: why do I want to get involved in other people's fights on other people's YouTube channels? Because I have my own life. Why do I have some sort of is there some sort of ride to the rescue? Most people don't even like anything about me or speak positively about the good things that I've done, right? So am I somewhat like supposed to do like what other things? So this is what happens when we bring up regular stuff about protecting yourself. And this is why I feel that my YouTube channel has a lot of different topics on it. And when I look at other YouTubers that stick with one topic, it's almost easier to not bring in off grid, plus solar flares, plus spiritual protection, plus activism, plus Costia County, Colorado, plus private property rights, and everything all tied together at the same time. So, yes, I get more into the left versus right. The tinnitus, the ringing in the ears, is difficult to explain. But I think that you can put up a shield. Have you ever practiced putting up a shield to deflect that ringing in the ears when it happens? Because one of the things that I've noticed is there's a way you can put up your own shield to diminish the intensity of that. But I think that by living in an urban environment, one could be a little bit more susceptible to that. One of the things that I didn't really get into when I was talking about the spiritual attacks while being on the road is when some people haven't showered and when some people haven't had a bath and when some people haven't rested, they can be really susceptible to psychic attack. And I think that's the thing that some people may forget with some of the long-term homeless is that you're dealing with people without a home. You're dealing with people that may not have talked to family for a number of years. So there's a reason why some people are going through certain levels of psychic attack when they're on the streets. And I think there's a real lack of compassion for that. I've seen it. I've seen how the depths of that misery, I've kind of touched it briefly when I didn't have a home and I lived in Portland. This is before going back to Colorado in the year 2014 or 2015. But so there's a certain level of desperation, and somebody in a situation like that needs to be grounded. Another thing that I didn't mention in that one video was when you're sleeping in your car and you're sleeping on concrete, there's something about that unnatural energy of sleeping in one's vehicle and sleeping above concrete and not being close to nature. And so there's something that could be really clearing about getting up and traveling. And I'll go to the comments here in a section, but I wanted to bring this thought in the last video about spiritual attacks while on the road. Things like taking off your shoes and putting your bare shoes or your bare feet on the grass, connecting to nature along the road, being just simply on concrete. And another thing, gas station to gas station. I don't know what it is about gas stations that is such a weird energy. It's a weird vibe, those particular energies. I don't know whether it's the gas fumes or the other energies or things of that nature. But that's one of the things that I've noticed when I was traveling is that sense of being drained, especially not getting enough rest, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. That goes into the box of increased cortisol, not exactly eating right, maybe eating at fast food places along the road. Psychic self-defense is essential for all aspects, and I am a target. And a lot of people have been targeted. One thing that I will say with regards to that area, there's a lot of targeting going on in that area. Not only in that area, Costia County, but Taos, New Mexico. You could say I'm spooked beyond anything I'll ever talk about. It'd have to be a life or death situation to ever be back in Costia County. Those people that run that county are capable of the worst things possible. If I felt that I had lawyers, see, this is, and I almost sometimes, do I regret even going back there the second time? Nobody's asked me. I felt like I need to cover it, but I feel just hated for it. You know what I mean? Like I covered a lot of stuff. What that does is make you a target, William. It makes you a target. And there's certain ways law enforcement can coordinate with other law enforcement to make life difficult, if you catch my drift, to limit mobility, just simply to lock someone up. See, I don't think that some people even realize the type of stuff. It's not just what Vince has gone through in his situation. There's other things that other people have gone through. And I'll tell you what, when you ride alone, right, and you don't feel like people have your back, man, that feels like hell on earth. That's a nightmare. And so I don't think you were following my content during that period. But I'll tell you what, man, when you live in a world where they don't like new people moving to Colorado and they call you invaders on top of it, plus all this political stuff, left versus right, and that's a big part of it. I'm an independent. I'm big time independent. And I think that if I was able to go in like a Democrat or Republican box, life would be a lot easier for me. I lived in Portland once. There's a lot of like common ground that I have with Portlanders and their issues, right? Why am I not connected with issues that may be ongoing in Portland? It's the left-right paradigm. It's the, well, you weren't with us because of Obama, Alex, so we called you a right-winger. And now it's that similar thing with the Trump thing. If someone's not for Trump, it's perceived to be against. So like all of this type of political rhetoric ultimately destroys like the independence. Like what we ought to be doing ultimately is supporting each other and not getting behind these major political systems. But what a lot of people don't know about me is I've never been behind mainline Republicans or Democrats ever. And that's my whole thing with going off the grid, because ultimately these I think that it's dangerous to get too deep with that stuff. And I think some people get, but I don't want to be critical. I think when other people out here, like we're talking about him over there, let us pray for him and wish him the best of luck in that thing. But man, I don't even want to, the people, and he talked about in his live stream, that's terrifying that dude might get promoted into another. Those people are capable of some bad stuff. But I'm not going to be using my platform to get involved and bringing up old. I've been trying to get away. Like, you want to talk about, like, I've been involved for 10 years, dude, in covering stuff before I even went to Costilla County. 10 years. And then yelling and stuff and yelling at the cops and getting all pumped up and megaphoning. Nothing really chilled me in my life until that place. And I think I went in there as a city person thinking, yeah, you're going to expose people like kicking people off their land. In the end, you're a sitting duck, just a matter of time as they go and they target, and it's heartbreaking. I still can't, made me really upset at America. And see, I can also step back as an independent who's not involved in this left, right, and go, where are the other people that do support this president helping out somebody like him, even if they're on the same political bandwagon? And see, those are the people. Think about, there's other people that come up. Our topic totally was derailed into someone else's thing, but I'm not angry, right? But I get into a topic, right? And then I like to complete the thought. The bigger deal, I mean, you're looking at a guy, and again, living off a few $100s a month. Thank you to those that donate and super chat. That's not a budget where my car can even barely make it out of the county. But why me? But why not the others? The question is, what about others that are of the same political persuasion? I know you follow me on this one. They're like, oh, America, red, white, and flag, left, right paradigm stuff. That's like, as far as I'm concerned, the dominant politics of Colorado. They're all, because here's what I've identified. Trump supporters that'll kick Trump supporters off their land. Can I get an amen? Have you noticed that? Or, right, they're all of the same persuasion. Trump, right? Where are those people of the same persuasion coming together to go, okay, now let's do something about our private property rights? You're with me on that one, right? On the idea that people like others that have large audience members could be helping him with the way that he needs that help. Coverage, people that don't have prior histories in the county, people that aren't targets, number one targets, to be specific, of those very officers. Like target number one. Like I don't want like some stray bullet to hit my like vehicle driving in there. So what I'm saying is, I do think that other people should have came to his aid that wouldn't have an issue going to that county, especially outsiders, people that maybe have lots of viewers. And what I've been asking myself is, where are they? And so I've been going through this pain. I watched an old man get kicked off his land this whole thing is actually about spiritual attack anyways. It's not really non-related. But we were talking about Gnostic stuff. I find this interesting. We're sitting there talking about Gnostic stuff, the Man on the Mountain series. And I'm thinking that if we just talk about spiritual stuff, Gnostic stuff, and we just stop talking about that land stuff, we'll be okay. And they came up, and it was around Thanksgiving, and it was at the tail end of 2015, right? I'm doing videos at this place. This guy has to leave his property. And then, of course, there's the aftermath. I've been in a you know what storm since. I have to watch my language. Indigo Scout in the house. Well, let me just say this. The most terrifying thing about it has been taken offline. I think that was a federal operation when that guy came in, where they were going to do that thing. That guy that came in, that's now sitting behind federal custody, he was taking down people's names. He was trying to get a thing going on, a conflict with the county. And yet he's going from Costia County to Burns, Oregon, where Pete Santilli was. Kind of bit coincidental. Anytime there's potential feds at play, trying to rally people up, rally the troops, that means everybody's under mass surveillance that's even connected with dude. And so as a result of this, not only have I lived my whole life with people calling me a conspiracy theorist, not only have I had to face that discrimination and wishing that, you know, this goes down to my relationship with my mother and my father could have been better if maybe I wasn't into these things that are considered weird. Not that they're perfect. I don't think some people realize, like, I literally am on my own completely all the way around because of my independence from these political structures. You have people in political camps that are amped up about certain things that I have no control over, immigration and otherwise. And yet somehow, because I was born in this day and age, I'm caught up in the middle of other people's anger. Why should I be involved in this? Is this my karma? Is this my beef? It's not. And so I've spent also a great deal of my life wondering where a good sense of community is for a person like me. So yeah, I didn't know if you, and also notice how a lot of people come into this scene and leave. It's difficult, but I would say that the Costia County thing, I don't have to be disappointed that this came up. It's probably the biggest emotional wound that I've ever faced in my life, next to other traumatic things like losing loved ones. Watching people being kicked off their land and feeling like you are powerless to do something about it. And then to see people get angry with you afterwards because you don't get involved in their thing. It makes you like, it's so bad, man. Just the negative. It's like, this is like what humanity has come to, this level of low down negativity. I mean, I don't know. It's horrible to be targeted. Also to feel like you're spiritually targeted and to try to help people online and go, bro, guys, I don't think you guys have 50 gang stalkers. I really don't. But you know what? I believe you. I think something's going on with you guys because it's gone on with me. And I felt straight up driven out of Portland. It's not the worst place on the planet, but it felt like it was invaded by vampires one day. So when I went to Costia County and those locals treat us like crap, they didn't understand. I didn't go down there to grow marijuana. Not like there's anything wrong with that. I was trying to get away from the influence of the city. I wanted to get close to that natural part of the earth. Why? There's something spiritual there. I don't know what it is. I think you got to think twice before investing a lot of money in certain places there. But I think that it's a spiritual place. It's an ancient place. So are other places in Colorado. But this is a very difficult time to come into Colorado, to be a person that is lower income. They don't want more people here. And especially if people don't have certain incomes, the future's uncertain. And now we have these fires. Did I always think, though? And I made a video saying spiritual warfare in Costia County. And that's basically when you deal with people that are being driven off their land and they're not even giving people alternatives. You're dealing with people that are not only traumatized, but they can end up in circumstances where they can end up being harmed by others. A couple years ago, I viewed the state of Colorado as a place where I had allies because it was just seen as like a generic like movement of like truthers, I guess, you know, off-gridders. And there is an accountability for how this left-right paradigm, and assuming if someone doesn't, I've already said all I need to say on that. It's the biggest psyops our country has ever seen. The idea that we are now seeing change we can believe in to make America great again. It is the biggest psyops our country has ever faced, that people think there's some winning going on. I mean, that's terrifying. Alex, why aren't you involved in this? Because this is no different than the Obama crowd I ran away from in Portland and more. But yeah, always been an outsider. I was the kid the nerds were sitting away from in school. This is nothing new. I'm not a popular guy anyways. People just find my stream and go, this is cool. But when it comes down to brass tacks, I've always been alone. When it comes down to it at the end of the day, right? It's always been Alex Redding solo. And it's now at this period in time, living off the grid, that this whole reality feels so strange. To not really have deep roots in the state that I moved to know there's so much hatred against the new people. It is suffocating. There are so many people that are suffering on so many different levels of poverty that are now in Colorado, that are, some of them are in trailer parks. Some of them are homeless. There's no community amongst us. And some people are really messed up that moved to Colorado. There is this big flow coming in from the West Coast, coming in from California. You just can't post on the internet. Everybody come down and shack on down. And as you're asking me, well, why I'm wondering why aren't these people down there with him? Have they ever tried to live in Costilla County? Do they know what it's like? You know what I mean? And I'm doing this polite without any personal attacks. There's times where we get emotional. There's times where we get afraid. There's times where we get angry. Let me go deeper into that. I felt like I was under spiritual attack in that county. And I felt that I had a lot of bad luck follow me after I lived in Costilla County the first time. I stopped looking at it, William, as a place to go to. You know what I mean? To the point where I started to look at that place as a place that can change someone, not for the better. I've also seen how this county and place that I'm in has changed people, not for the better. We are surrounded by nature, yet there are people that live amongst nature that hate the things that God created, the humans that God created, yet they dare to live amongst nature and say they care about nature and church and God. To what God do they pray as these never-ending wars continue to be funded? 22 trillion, 23 trillion. Oh, boy. I wish people understood a lot of different things. Okay. So we have like limited light. I don't have with regards to psychic protection, I don't always meditate. Sometimes it's more, what am I not doing? I'm certainly not smoking as many cigarettes as before, as last year. I try to cut back on the civil unrest footage. I'll be aware of, okay, here's what happened in Portland. Here's the left and the right of it. But I'm not going to involve myself in the emotions of all that. You know, I like martial arts to a certain degree, and I like some fight analysis. But when you get pulled into watching some of these YouTube videos and all the emotion, the people screaming, that's something that you want to guard against. So we're actually going here without any major issues. I wish there was more. I just want to keep moving on with this topic, but I can't. It's just so, it's not your fault. It's just, I wish there were more places for us to like follow the off-grid dream other than Colorado. This place is getting crowded. The stuff's getting scary. The state's getting more control freakish, more arcani. There's a reason I stay out of Denver, but I am looking for Denver peeps, to do some interesting things with, and some other things in the state of Colorado. It just takes a while for people to find my channel that are here. Married women find it. Hey, Alex, we love your channel, but our life is awesome in Salida. Your life isn't awesome. Our life, me and my husband, we have an awesome home. I'm just comedy. Sometimes they're always giving me free comedy. They don't realize they're writing it. It's like, that's nice. Glad you're enjoying life. Oh, that's a nice white picket fence. It also helps to not be a target, to never say anything about nothing. You know what I mean? don't have a YouTube channel, don't ever come to anybody's aid, don't have a history of these things. There was also New Mexico's the worst. I was exposing police in Raton, New Mexico, and that started another wave of resentment. And that was 2013. And then it came out later on that their police were involved in drug dealing in Raton, New Mexico. That's south of Trinidad. So there was a time in my life where young Portlander, maybe I had too much confidence. Maybe confidence is good. Maybe overconfidence is a negative. When you get really confident exposing police misconduct, you get confident, you feel like Superman until some really messed up stuff happens. So spiritual protection and interactions with law enforcement, state agencies, things of that nature, it's all related. It can all be related. We talked about, I talked about in another video, but I didn't upload it, that a lot of people get angry at Permit Patty, but they won't say, take a look at what's happening in Costilla County, right? Permit Patty, there's a story about this woman that called the police. And so this is also another form of spiritual attack where people are trying to use the system or the police on others to get back at them. And we're seeing waves of that. And we're seeing waves of that in the news with people calling the police on others. But the greater reality is this nation is based on that Permit Patty mentality of having permits or having the cops called on you. Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, also, sometimes the right environments aren't good for us, and we may not be good for others. Our energy may not be good for others. There may be people that like to be in a certain vibrational state, certain types of restaurants, and it may not be in our best interest to be working at certain establishments because of the energy. It could be a localized energy. It could be an electromagnetic energy. It could be the energy of the people that you work with, right? Because I do believe that we can have spiritual attachments, and a lot of people do, demonic ones, negative spiritual attachments because of who they are. A lot of people do. To work in those environments where there's a lot of people with those attachments, that can be pretty intense. So I just noticed things were really strange. And she said she would call me back after an interview that she kept pretty short as 2 minutes. It was at a golf course. And I was enthused, I guess, at the moment, as I started thinking about it, as I parked by the Halburn truck. I thought this energy is not conducive to me being in that environment. And it even after all these years, I think that I could just turn off, right, Alex Ansary outside the box, pretend to be a different person, and go into some of these environments where there's a lot of slave master relationship stuff going on. And it'd be great to get something simple, not dealing with a lot of people, right? But that's not always easy to get. So sometimes I just, it might work out, might be a big, good positive mix of individuals. But when you walk in and there's unhealthy staring, like what's he doing here? It's awkward. And it's even more awkward when you talk about that in a day and age where there is straight up people screaming about immigrants invading the country. To some people, I do look Hispanic, whether you agree with that or not, or something else. So with all of the pent up immigration and other hysterias, anger, whether it's hysteria or real, to be caught up in the middle just because you were born. And then for things to be like separate along political lines. And then when name calling comes up, because people are saying that, whoa, you're sharing your feelings. You sound like CNN, when there's actually nothing to compare between what it is that I do and CNN or Fox News or NPR. When anybody from like the left controlled reality gets a hold of my content, I mean, they think I am a lunatic. They are cruel. They are bad to the bone. They are mean mofos to a level that people don't understand. People on the right often describe like the left like some sort of loving kumbaya. They love all the blah blah blah, and it's not really a tolerant, loving, open experience. Not what I had in Portland. But then the others that are pointing their finger, they're not exactly showing me what love, acceptance, tolerance looks like either. They're just pointing their finger. They're not showing me what that looks like. And I was saying this on an earlier Facebook rant. It's like, There are people out there that may not understand that there are the people that have experiences different than them. And my suggestion is it's better, it's a more spiritual thing for someone to go, you're crazy because you said that elements of Colorado aren't very friendly when there's massive anger towards especially single men with nothing that were lower income. It's seen as like, oh, wait, really like, oh, wait, but I'm glad I don't have children. Then I'd really be targeted by the state. People should be, when they're getting defensive about that stuff, be wanting to show someone then what community is all about and not be so ego about it and add into the spiritual attack. And Portlanders were like that. A lot of Portlanders and people move to Portland because they want to be a part of that Portland persona. And if you want to insult the average person in Portland, you insult the idea that they're better than the rest of the country. You put that, you know what, on Front Street, call that stuff out. You ain't better than the rest of the country. That's a great way to diss their ego, the collective ego, the whole mythos of Portland being more spiritual than the rest of the country or something, or more sustainable. It just has a lot more cool stuff going on. People can go there and say, hey, I'm a part of this. So living outside the box of the modern cliques isn't easy. And ultimately, this is the stuff that I talk about. 10 years ago, someone would say, Alex, you must be an agent because you're not calling for revolution. You're like all this into philosophy and news. That's what they want us to do, to be in inaction. And someone's always going to come up with a conspiracy within a conspiracy within a conspiracy to put someone down for expressing their soul and individuality. But yeah, living in Colorado is a spiritual experience. Somebody may not know, right, that they're about to go to the next level of having a spiritual experience until they end up in some really bad situations where they find themselves treated like an immigrant, like a refugee, because they came from another state in an RV, and then to survive that. And there's some people that don't survive that and to keep moving forward. And what you don't see from a lot of people that are off the grid is YouTube commentary or content that's beyond just their little thing, that gets deeper into other things. I don't have all the answers, but I have passions that I've had for years, and I know how awkward it is to talk about things like this when you have roommates. I've had to survive the spiritual attack of being booted out of places just because they didn't want me there, because I used to hold a mic like this and talk with people like you, not with a video stream like this running solar, but an MP3. So at one point it was American Freedom Radio. At another point, it was Oracle Broadcasting. You know, at that point, like the whole chat room, like it's way better today. At that point, it was just constant bickering about whether or not someone loved Alex Jones or not, or believed he was the devil. And it would revolve around that, and it would deviate from the main conversation. Even 10 years ago, the people with multiple accounts doing different things, having different fun. And the people are great today, but it's like we've kind of seen the emergence. I remember the days of Chatango, you know, looking at the live chat. It's just amazing how either old I'm getting and time flies, 10 years ago, and how crazy it would get. And so we still are in a very infantile level of what we can do with this technology. But we can also see from the technology that some people are choosing not to act, even if, right, like we talk about the other guy in Costilla County, there could be a number of people that straight up like are thanking Jesus because of the current political situation. They could be subscribers to his channel. Where are they at? They're all in that understanding. They're all in that political understanding. They're winning now. I'm sorry. People are thinking the government is working this out. By golly, it's almost as if the MAGA crowd thinks Trump's for private property rights. You think? Could there possibly be a problem with this? Oh, big time. Because they don't understand that, no, they're not winning. They're losing. Things never change with that election. Now, if they think things have changed in the election, then they're winning. So you see, then they don't need to go down there to help him. It's basic math. It's basic math. We can lay it out. 2 + 2 = 4. They think they're winning. Right? They voted, change we can believe in, and make America great. It'll work itself out in the end. He's going to clean house eventually. As the deep state's making him launch the wars. Okay. So we have all these people on these different witch hunts, and it's not even necessarily him to blame. Just like that chapter, David Icke's saying, I love you, Dr. Kissinger. He's not saying he really loves him in a romantic way. He's saying that I'm not going to respond to this with this. I'm going to have higher consciousness. So we go beyond hate, right? We go beyond hate of these political candidates, even when we know we're being sold down the river, and we don't get involved in either side of the riot in Portland, Oregon. But we look back and we go, now, while everybody's talking about the politics and whether or not somebody like so-and-so, and whether or not, because that's all, that's like whether a relationship between people is going to happen now, whether they're on the same side politically. There is no independent conspiracy theory. So, I mean, I've never in my whole life until the last few years seen this level of mind control and the divide of a movement that had potential. It's like one big death, this 2015, 2016. And it's just synchronistic that I happen to be a place to watch the death of the past. Trump, whether you're in a stand in Trump, there is no independent. And it's like, folks, I'm not like some crazy anarchist. I was supporting Ron Paul. I don't think he's an angel, but I was supporting Ron Paul in 2008, 2012. I was giving YouTube attention to the Dallas Ron Paul group. I went to the Republican National Convention to film and interview pro Ron Paulers and people kind of pushing back against the mainstream Occupy crowd, which I was calling controlled opposition then in 2011, 2012. Even if people were swept up when they were feeling like they were winning, right? And you can watch Portland, Oregon, for example. And it seemed like one big community, like, kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. It seems like maybe they were going to win something at the end of that carnival. What, like make Portland some sort of independent currency type? Nothing came about from that. For those that follow the content, though, on the stars, the full moon, the solar flares, right? Occupy was taking place several years after. The title of this stream was like reading from a book, and I'm like now completely into a different topic. But it was when the solar flare cycle started up again, the solar cycle, a couple years after the Baker bailout, that the Occupy movement started moving. And so we have these cycles where people are moving and responding to that energy. And there are also periods in which the public is less responsive. And that's the cycle that we're going into. So I would expect to see a lot of deceptions on the American people as we approach solar minimum 2020. People talk about these protests and things in the street. I'm going to bring up something in the comment section. I was fired by 3 primary physicians for not taking vaccines or drugs. Says warning signs. Finally found one that will work for me for emergencies and natural healing. Indigo Scout, interesting point, warning signs. Makes sense that it's better than that the shrinks are the pushers rather than the bars or the corner drug dealer. Ooh, it's getting pretty hot in here. Oh, I'm going to have to focus on reading another time. But we have 17 people that are watching the live stream. But if the live stream ends, it means we're out of power, and it means it's the end of the live streaming for the night. Another book that I was going to get into is the history of Gnosticism, the period in which they went underground, the period in which they created their dogma. There would only be one understanding of God as it is, and certain interpretations of the Bible. And there was a comment or a question, and some people may hear the idea of God or the word God and assume that it's a pro-monotheist discussion. And that may be there, and it takes some patience with some of us, but some questions can't be answered in the matter of how do you prove that God exists. Some things are not easily answered in that matter. I don't think it works that way. Now, that is a popular question, but it's within a certain framework. It requires almost like a certain argument that's based in trying to convince someone of a certain something. Maybe that's for them to decide on. And maybe a lot of people are used to that. They're only like I've never even been to a Gnostic leaning church ever. I also realize that there are people that think that they're like against the New World Order and against the conspiracy that also curse people that they label Gnostics that are all over YouTube. You know, they're all here. We are in 2018. They think they've got things figured out, anti-New World Order, and yet there's this old world association with pure evil and Gnosticism, which actually goes back thousands of years to period where they were killing other people that didn't believe in this one world, one God type of ideology. It's still alive today. Down to the very people which I feel have tried to cause me harm in this world, in this life. It has been in response not just to the Costilla County stuff, which has led to one problem, but the Gnostic information discussing the archons. One person, before he went on a smear campaign, said almost in a threatening way, don't call them archons, you call them demons. And he was triggered also with discussions about the sun because I don't believe in a flat earth. And one troll that left the 14 words on the channel last night in the comment section, his content revolved around two suns and flat earth. It wasn't even promoting the 14 words. He just felt like promoting the 14 words on my channel. As far as his content, though, it was flat earth and double sun. I'm thinking, no, here's a combination of these interests, these niches of content. And I've always stayed away from the flat earth stuff. And there's a lot of people out there, right, that may seem really interested in the stars and the sky and mysticism and channeling. You know, in reality, it's not as it seems. There's a dark side to that. There's a dark side of the conspiracy research community. There are so many dark portals now. It's a terrifying world. Now, I hope that we can rebound from this. Maybe some new truther-like communities could emerge out of the ashes of this chaos. Kind of like after 9/11, there are people that came together because they saw that type of Sauron rising up. Well, people can do that with regards to the COINTELPRO and the alternative media. How the alternative media has taken this detour in recent years. Something new could spring up. I don't know if it will. People seem a little docile. I look at the technologies that exist today. By the way, Facebook may be getting ready to monetize their platform, but it's like we have the potential to organize some fantastic things. Years ago, we'd see things like Project Camelot or others on Google Video, and they'd have a conference lined up. And sometimes, yeah, if there's money involved and people are going to be paid to be a part of a conference, or it's going to get some big promotion from coast to coast or associates, then sure. But to those of us that are seeking the truth, have examples where people are getting together, or is it just quote unquote the normie crowd? People don't think too hard about certain things. So I think this will be one of the things that's just a reoccurring theme throughout my videos throughout the years, is there's more to life than blaming the government and the elites. There are so many like internal issues regarding relationships, friendships, right? So it's almost as if to solve the conspiracy, it's an inside job, evolving. That's the constant theme with a lot of the literature and the Gnostic literature and even Eastern mysticism. And a lot of people are obviously allergic to that and allergic to me when they understand that I have an outside the box, open-minded understanding of spiritual concepts. It is considered incredibly offensive. It doesn't really feel a whole lot different in 2018 than maybe a few years ago. And ultimately, I raised the question, have we really changed since the Middle Ages? The politics haven't really changed. Some of the human tribal behaviors haven't really changed. So we have iPhones and we have like this load of information, but it's still that world that's got the witch hunt for the women that may know too much about the archons, or that may be following on a Gnostic path. And what I'm doing with you by bringing these topics up is something fairly new. Most people don't talk about these things off the grid. It's usually about their own thing, their own property, their own goals, their own girlfriend, their own happy family, their own egglets. Look how many ducks I've got today. And it's like, you know, I know some people would like if this channel was just an off-grid channel where we talk about but ultimately it's always coming down to protecting ourselves from these intrusive supernatural forces. All these years people come because they found one video that attracted, but it's still the same theme in my life. It's still the same world that I'm looking at as like something out of Ghostbusters. I haven't changed. Different people come and go, and they come and go by the day to the hour. And yes, sometimes I think that life would have been easier for me if I just followed a particular path, got a degree, got a woman to accept me, something to that effect. Started making a certain amount of money, drove a certain amount of car, got involved in politics. Like I said, even with my outside the box views, if I would just go left or right, embrace, start doing shout outs to some main big time Democrats, maybe some Republicans, maybe co-signing some of their BS. Oh boy, we would see the YouTube subscriber number double. We'd go from I worked almost 15 years to build 15,000 subscribers. Some of you guys are not you guys, but others, we know in 1 year they can do what I've done in 12 years just by picking a side politically. Left, right paradigm, just pick a side and you'll have friends. You like Hillary, you like Sanders, there's millions of people like you. You like Donald Trump, boom, there's your party, there's your crowd, there's your barbecue. Get down on it. Right now, you like Donald Trump, you believe in white genocide, there's a million people right now. You can have the best barbecue. You can have your own network. You can have your own rap songs about that reality. You don't have to feel alone because you're not alone. And so people are responsible then if they want to say, hey, let's build our own communities, go our own way, then do it. Then do it. Show the happy utopia. The Mormon utopia. People have tried it. People have already done that. People have already gone down that road. This is not a new concept. Me, I'm just trying to figure out why I was born in your crazy world, in this crazy world. And I certainly made sure I didn't do is bring any children. What I certainly didn't do is contribute any of my DNA to this world. That to put a child of mine through whatever hell or oven it's going to have to walk through in 20, 30, or 40 years if this friggin' planet doesn't change its course. Because the evil above the New World Order has a mastermind plan for 2100 and the type of world create. And it's opposite of the world that people are being propagandized and told about now on Facebook. It's the complete opposite of what they're being told. Everything that's building right now, especially online, is a massive campaign for a massive removal of people from the earth. This is what I've sensed throughout most of my time in the alternative media. It's what I spoke about in my earliest days. But no one said, Alex, you're crazy. When I said this is the new America spelled with 3 Ks instead of 1 C, they thumbed up. They understood in 2005. They understood in 2006. They understood in 2007. It wasn't seen as a stab at anybody. It wasn't seen as sounding like CNN. It was when they were promoting these never-ending wars. I was there by myself, alone with that megaphone, saying those things about 9/11 and promoting a Mr. Jones, of course. That saw nothing in me, which was a good thing. It was a blessing. Dude saw me come and is like, what? And then now I realize why that was. I couldn't understand why I give so many other people, right? Now that I understand the ideology that it was kind of coveting for years, I understand that'd be detrimental. That'd look bad for Alex Jones to be near an Alex Ansari. Yeah, that's not going to mix. That's not going to blend. That's not going to go down well. So early on, now I understand why I was so uncomfortable when I was sitting next to him. That dude couldn't wait to get up from that table. Poor Alex Jones. I think he really got a kick out of me asking him, so what do you think about Israel? During the last time we actually ever talked. 2007, that was that interview. Because he was promoting in-game then. And I was still interviewing a lot of people. And I just thought I would throw in like all these people in the chat were like, ask Alex Jones, what do you think of Israel? And it was back during that time where dude still seemed like the dude, the hero, the tip of the spear. We just didn't know then. We just didn't know. Can you imagine, William, if someone like Alex Jones gave a damn, or someone of actual power, or someone that's like all behind the manga, like really help dude down in Costilla? If all those people that are watching, like what Alex is doing, actually got together to help him themselves, just the spark, like, telling you what, man, there's a lot of people out there with big time channels that love the president. Question is, right? If we manga, kind of like a little all night long, where are they? Where are they? It would. But what we don't want to see is fighting. I'd like to see the county do the right thing. would like to see the county do the right thing. And I can be like of a different political mindset and be someone's cheerleader behind the scenes and go, you guys aren't even doing what you could do. And so, so people should pray for people that are being persecuted by the system. In some cases, that's all we can do because that's what we're dealing with. That courtroom over there is a creepy place. That county. And what's weird is the way the police just kind of stand there. When he says support over there, he needs bodies that, we're talking about people that don't even have histories there. Fresh bodies that are there. They ain't going to get jumped on the way in or the way out. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, here's this guy. Here's that guy. They're not going to mess with a group of people that are there to report. Indigo Scout, he did. Now, how does this relate to spiritual attack, though? Again, it's not a bad area for getting away from it all. You know what I mean? Costilla County, getting away from a major situation. I think we already know that. Now we have fires. There was a lot of anger people were throwing at the guy that accidentally started the fire. They were calling for him to be, you know what? Society can be vicious. Colorado people in the chat section, not you guys. I mean, like when they put up that guy's image and said that he caused the fire, they were saying horrible things. They wanted him dead. And that county down there reported that it was arson, but he was cooking meat. Accidentally starting a fire and being arguably reckless and negligent is not the same thing as arson. I think we just saw how that county can say something that can get somebody hurt when something hits the papers. And they do that. They do that low down stuff. And hearing about what Vince said about what happened to him in that county, that's pretty scary stuff, right? So I don't want to be angry. I bring this down to why I'm not like blaming. Like I said, I'm not like behind the current political thing, but I'm not lost in anger to the president because I've trained myself to not do that. I understand they want all this anger back and forth towards the government. So I get frustrated with our fellow countrymen. That's what I get frustrated with. Maybe I shouldn't be frustrated about that, but I don't get lost in anger towards politicians. I get frustrated with the lack of our unity amongst ourselves, and I chalk it up to psychic attack. I think that any time that we try to build any real community anywhere, forces come in to derail the positive stuff that we try to build. Generally speaking, it doesn't feel good to be called a kook, right? But if you talk about spiritual warfare and you talk about things like that and people being divided, people can take it to that level. Fortunately for us, in recent years, we have a number of people that have talked about intentional communities being infiltrated by negative entities, and it could be just a few people. I'm trying to think of some examples. Eve Lorgan may have talked to a woman named Ari. There may be a video you can watch about, archons or negative entities infiltrating intentional communities. I've mentioned before that sometimes you have issues, and none of us are perfect, but it could be power tripping. Some of us are real sensitive. That's another thing. Some people just really haven't thought out. Some people are really damn independent. And a lot of people have their own ideas how things should be. And that's just how it is. It's not necessarily a bad thing to be independent. Sometimes we can be so independent, though, and on our own little thing that nothing's getting done. But just don't forget, right now, our system is dominated by two main schools of thought, Democrat and Republican. And in the year 2018, we don't have a major third-party option. All right, so I'm going to wrap up, answer some more comments, try to get some rest.